over. So we're starting at the top of the mat. Feet are going to be almost as wide as your mat, so we'll go a little bit wider just so we don't stress the hamstrings and the back of the legs as much. Reaching the arms up overhead, stretching up long towards the ceiling. Arms are going to come forward as we drop our chin towards our chest. We're going to fold across the mid-ribs and begin to curl and roll down. Curling and rolling down towards the floor piece by piece, segment by segment, and you're keeping the weight across the center of the foot. So that way you're not rocking towards your toes or pushing back past your heels. You really want to feel grounded throughout the whole foot. Letting the head hang, the arms hang, and then on that next exhale, we're going to scoop and draw up, rounding the back, gliding those shoulders down so you feel that stretch across the back of the neck, restacking the spine, reaching up nice and tall, nice and long. Fingers interlace, we bring our arms up overhead and we hinge over to the right without the hips shifting left. Back to center, stretch up and over to the other side. Coming back to center, we'll walk our feet in about an inch closer to one another. Hands separate at the top, we're going to pull the ribs in, arms are going to flow forward as we bring chin to chest, folding across the mid-ribs, curling down. Once again, keeping that weight throughout the foot as you roll towards the floor. Letting yourself hang. Feel that stretch travel from the back of the heel all the way up the back of the leg, around the spine, towards the crown of the head. And next exhale, we slide those shoulders back and down. Lengthen the neck. Exhale, tuck and curl. Rolling up. Restacking the spine nice and tall, nice and long. Arms reach up overhead. Fingers once again interlace. We stretch up and over to the right, feeling that stretch along the rib cage. To center, reach up and over to the other side. Coming back to the middle, we'll once again walk our feet in about an inch. We should be in a parallel position, right in line with our sit bones, and hands separate. We curl and roll forward. Rolling down that center line piece by piece, keeping the neck nice and long. Letting the head hang as you reach for the floor. Feeling that weight across the full foot. Spreading the toes wide, grounding to the mat, grounding to the floor. And exhale. Tuck and curl. Rounding the back as you draw the abdominals up and in. Arms reach up long overhead. Fingers interlace. We stretch up towards the ceiling and we reach to the right. Back to center, reach up and over to the left. Returning our arms to center, hands separate. We curl and roll down. As if you're rolling off the wall behind you, piece by piece. Hands are going to come to the floor. If you need to bend at the knee because the hamstrings are tight, add that knee bend and we're going to walk out. 1, 2, 3, 4. To that center plank. Pushing up nice and strong away from the floor. Drawing the rib cage in. Pulling navel to spine, stretching those legs nice and long. Feeling that tension build throughout the leg as well as in the inner thigh. Bringing that bracing into the abdominals and also engaging through the glutes. We breathe for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hips reach high. Drive the heels down. Flatten the back. Allow the shoulders to glide down. Working that downward dog position. Reaching the hips back towards the heels, driving the heels towards the floor. Tailbone stretches to the ceiling. And next exhale, drop the head, round the back, Return to that center plank. You can always drop to your knees if you need to come up off of the toes to make it easier. Knees would just come down. You'd work that center plank, taking that tension off of your low back if you're not ready for a straight leg plank. Holding for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hips reach back. Stretching back, dropping the chest through the arms. Feeling that extension travel up the back as you stretch the spine long, reaching the tailbone for the ceiling. Ribs and abs knit in. Driving the heels towards the floor as you straighten the legs. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Chin to chest, round the back. Returning to that center plank. Either straight legs or to the knees. You can also transition to the forearm if you want to come off the hand and the wrist. Pushing up strong away from the floor. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more downward dog. Reaching back, make any adjustments that you need to straighten the legs as you press the heels towards the floor. Flatten the back, draw those shoulders down, away from the neck, away from the ears. Reaching the hips up towards the ceiling as the legs stretch down towards the floor. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Chin to chest, rounding the back. Curling forward, back to that center plank, nice and strong. Remember your modifications, down to your knees or to your forearms or both. Find that position that suits you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Elbows bend, and we lower to the mat. Nice and flat. Legs come together, nice and long, out the hips, stretching towards the end of your mat. Hands and arms reach back by the legs, by the hips, floating the face up off of the mat. And inhale, chest lifts. And exhale to lower. We're folding at the mid-ribs, just at the base of the shoulder blades, keeping the tension out of the small of our back. Engaging through the abdominals. Pressing through inner thighs, squeezing through glutes. Reaching the tailbone down towards the floor between the knees to keep that tension out of the small of your back. And we inhale for that thoracic extension, that lift of the chest. Last 2. And hands come by the chest. Toes curl under. We'll separate the legs. Lifting the chest, peeling up. Sitting back. Stretching the hips back over the heels as you drop the chest towards the floor. Reaching out long with the arms. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rounding the back, curling forward, coming to that kneeling center plank. Shoulders drop, pulling the ribs in. We have a wider stance with our feet. Our knees are a little wider stance than before. We're going to push up into that straight leg center plank or stay kneeling. Glide those shoulders down, pull the ribs in, draw navel to spine, and then right knee bends towards the floor and straighten. Left. We'll alternate side to side. If you're working from your kneeling position, you could stay kneeling, hold for a breath or two, and then try to pop up to a straight leg before returning to that kneeling position for the reset. So find ways to play with the motion and the movement of the legs. Working those knee taps, trying not to extend the low back as the knee reaches for the floor. One more each side. And hips reach back. Stretch back into that downward dog pose. Letting the neck lengthen, the head stretch towards the floor. And right knee bends. Drive that left heel towards the floor. Deeper calf stretch. And switch. Arms are nice and straight. Feeling the shoulders slide back and down. Drawing the ribs in, we alternate that calf stretch from side to side. Last one with that left. Nice straight legs, reach back, and then chin to chest. Rounding the spine, curling back to that plank position. Holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Elbows bend, and we lower down. Legs come back together, slight tuck of the tailbone so you can lengthen and stretch through the low back. Arms come out to a T position. Palms are facing the floor, arms are floating off the mat. And inhale, chest lifts. Squeezing shoulder blades back and down, keeping the neck long. And exhale to lower. Bracing through the abdominals as you lift. Again, only lifting as high as you can without putting any tension into the small of the back. You could add a pillow underneath the hips, right at the navel, to create a little bit more flexion. And 3, 2, and 1. Hands come to the chest. We'll separate the legs mat width apart. Curl the toes under. We'll peel up. And sit back with knees wide. And we drop the chest down between the thighs. Reaching out straight and long overhead. Pressing the chest towards the floor as the arms reach long towards the end of your mat. And on that next exhale, we'll curl and restack the spine. Sitting up nice and tall, nice and long. And we'll work into our kneeling lunge stretch for a moment, which you could also do standing. So bringing your right foot forward, left knee stays down onto the mat, and if you want to do it standing, just straighten that back leg so you can keep that pressure off the knee. Driving that right knee forward towards the toes, pressing the hips down and forward. Chest lifts. Adding that extra stretch. If you're standing, you're working the balance as well. And then backing off a little, finding that nice vertical thigh if you're kneeling on that left side. Bringing the left arm up and overhead. We're going to lean to the right. Nice little side bend. And then drive the hips forward once again. Pulling that stretch farther up the chain. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Backing off, and we'll change sides. Right knee down, left foot forward. And again, you can go to that straight back right leg to take the pressure off the knee. And we drive that left knee forward out over the toes, pressing the hips forward and down. And chest lifts. We back off. Find that vertical thigh for that right leg in your kneeling position. If you're standing, just back off a little bit so you're not putting so much pressure at the front of the hips. Right arm comes up and overhead. We lean to the left through the torso and then drive the hips forwards and down. Pulling that stretch up the front of the body into the torso. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slow to unwind. Bringing the knees both to the mat. You could do this seated or kneeling. If you want to stay off the knees, go to a straight leg position. Heels are together if you're kneeling, so we're creating a little bit of external rotation to engage the glutes better, the back of the hips. Arms reach forward to the front. Press the hips forward. Open and stretch through the front of the body. And inhale, lean back. Fall back towards the feet. And exhale, rise. Shoulders glide down. Ribs and abs are drawing into your center line, pulling into the back towards the spine. Working that thigh stretch up the front of the leg. 3 more. Last one. And hands to the mat. Coming to a quadruped position. We're going to work a little bit of bird dog. So I want to find my thigh, my knee stacked right underneath my hip. Hands and wrists are right underneath the shoulder, so I'm squared off as much as possible. We want to make sure the leg isn't starting back too far. Working on that alignment, draw the shoulders down, ribs and abs knit in. Inhale, right arm reaches up overhead and back. We'll do 3 on the right. 2. Right arm reaches for 3. Hand down. Take a breath to reset. And left arm reaches up for 1. 2. 3. Again, take a breath. Find that reset, re-engage. Right leg reaches back for 1. 2. 3. And reset. Taking that breath, connect back to your core, to your center line. Left leg reaches back on an inhale for 1. 2. 3. Finding that reset. Take a moment, take a breath. I want you to feel the tension in through the mid-ribs, through the abdominals. We're going to go for our diagonals. Right arm, left leg for 3 reps. Inhale, reach, and back. 1 more. And breathe for the reset. Left arm, right leg for 3. and back to center. Going into our cat stretch, we're going to segment the spine, articulating the lower half of the back and then the upper half. On the exhale, flat upper back, strong through the shoulders. We tuck the tailbone. Rounding under, tucking the tail, drawing navel to spine, and back to neutral. Drawing the abdominals in strong, and inhale, chest lifts. And back to neutral, nice flat back. Exhale, tailbone tucks. Rounding the lower half of your spine as the tailbone tucks. No rounding through the shoulders. We return to neutral as we pull the rib cage together, cinch up tight through the core, and inhale, chest lifts. Back to neutral. Tailbone tucks. Separating through the spine, lower half, upper half. A little different than your yoga cat-cow. We're not moving the entire spine. Lower half of the spine articulates on that exhale for a C curve and flexion. Back to neutral. Inhale, upper half of the spine lifts into extension for thoracic extension through the mid-ribs. Last two. And chest lifts. Back to neutral. Sit back to your heels. Stretch the arms long overhead and rotate the arms so the palms begin to turn face up. One more breath. Palms rotate face down, and exhale, curl. Restacking the spine, sitting up nice and long, nice and tall. Let's drop our right ear towards our right shoulder to stretch along the left side of the neck and across the top of that left shoulder. Dropping the hand down, pressing that shoulder down, even with your right hand, to add a little extra stretch and assistance as you bring the side of the head to that right shoulder. Chin lifts up towards the ceiling on that diagonal line. Reaching up, looking up, moving that stretch from the ear right there under the jaw. And then on that diagonal, we're going to go chin down. Still right ear towards the shoulder to move that stretch towards the back of the ear and along the neck. And back to center. Right arm down at your side. Left ear towards that left shoulder. Nice little tip of the head, not the torso moving to the side. Left hand will come across the body, hold and press that right shoulder down as the head leans left. Staying on that diagonal, the chin lifts, looking up towards the ceiling, out over that left shoulder, we're looking up. Moving that stretch along the front of the neck towards the collarbone. And then chin drops down, still leaning that ear towards the shoulder to transition that stretch towards the back of the neck. Holding that right shoulder down, let that right shoulder relax for the stretch. And back to center. We're going to come to our backs, laying down in a supine position. Moving into our pelvic curl for our shoulder bridge. Curling down to the mat, nice flat back, but still having that little gap between the small of the back and the floor. Knitting the ribs in. Arms are going to reach long at the side, knees bent, feet in line with the sit bones. We exhale to tilt the hips back, finding that imprint, and we begin to scoop and lift, pressing the knees forward towards the toes. And on that next exhale, we're going to curl and articulate all the way down, along the spine, back to neutral. Everything from mid-ribs up is stationary. It's still, because we're going to flex at that mid-rib to allow everything south to move towards the toes without shifting that upper body towards the top of your mat. Exhale, hips tilt back. Find that scooping, find that C curve, and begin to peel and lift up. Coming to the top of that bridge, feeling the opening through the front of the hips and that stretch around the knee. And exhale, curling down. Articulating along the spine piece by piece. Back to neutral. Exhale, tilt. Drawing the abdominals in, pressing through the feet, feeling the hamstrings and the glutes engage as the hips lift. Keeping the ribs drawn in as you reset the hips. Last two. Knees come to tabletop, hugging through inner thigh. Hands are going to come to the knees as we fold and lift the head, neck, and chest, coming into that forward fold. But we're still heavy towards the tailbone. Unless it's too much stress on your low back and the hip flexors, and I do want you to tuck a little bit. Create that C curve. Come out of a neutral spine. And right leg reaches forward, straight and long. And we switch. Keeping that nice deep fold at the mid-ribs. Going for two more each side. Coming to center, pull knees to chest, drop the shoulders, the head back to the mat, and legs will shift over towards that right shoulder, back to center, and rock to the left. Rocking from hip to hip, letting the spine stretch and reset. Legs come to tabletop. Arms open out towards a T position, palms up towards the ceiling. And on the inhale, legs twist, low back, mid back, twist to the right. Anchor that left shoulder as we exhale and come back to center. Inhale, twisting through the mid-ribs to the left. Right shoulder plants to the mat. We alternate from side to side, drawing that straight line across the ceiling with the shins, with the legs. The farther we twist along the mid-ribs, the more we're going to cinch together, pull to our center line, anchor those shoulder blades flat against the mat, let the collarbone spread wide. Two more each side. and back to center. Hands come to the knees. We fold once again, adding our chest lift, moving into our double leg stretch. Inhale, arms and legs reach away. And arms circle back towards tabletop. Inhale, brace, open, reach. And exhale, reset. Last two. And knees draw in, drop the shoulders back. Head and neck looks to the right. And head and neck twists and looks left. Coming back to center, we'll set our feet back to the mat. Find that little gap between the back and the floor. And fingers interlace. Hands come back behind the head to support the head, neck, and chest. We move into our chest lift. We exhale, fold across the mid-ribs. Taking a breath as you bring your line of sight between the knees. And next exhale, curl back. Knitting the ribs in, staying strong and tight through the core. We exhale to fold right across the mid-ribs. Folding at the brow line, keeping that nice flush position at the small of the back, that level between hips and ribs. Your head and your neck is being supported by your arms, your hands, your core as you fold deep into that chest lift. Trying not to flare the ribs on the reset. It's a 2 breath cycle motion. So we exhale to lift, inhale to pause, exhale to tighten up the abdominals as we drop towards the mat to keep that tightness, that pull to center line. And an inhale to break and reset. Last one. Arms come out to a T position, palms up towards the ceiling. Right leg rises to tabletop. Draw in through the abdominals. On the inhale, we hinge at the hip, the foot lowers to tap the mat, and exhale to rise. Trying to maintain that knee bend throughout the movement, allowing the movement to come solely from the hip. No change in the spine or in the alignment between the hips, the ribs, the shoulders. 2 and 1. Resting that right foot back in line with the sit bones. Take a breath to reset. Left leg lifts to tabletop. And inhale, hinge. Exhale up. Three, 2, last one, and feet are back to the mat. Legs are sit bones distance apart. Arms reach up overhead, palms up towards the ceiling. Draw the rib cage in. My arms are floating up off of the mat. Otherwise, if I start palm down, I'm going to start an extension. It's going to be harder for me to get that chest lift. So I'm floating the arms up, pulling the ribs in, and exhale. Arms flow forward, lifting the chest, folding out the mid ribs, and slow to reset. Last two. Resetting the upper body, arms open back out to a T, palms up towards the ceiling, legs come to tabletop. Leave a space between the knees for our leg changes. And inhale, right foot lowers towards the mat, hinge at the hip, and we change on the exhale. Change on the inhale. Alternate from leg to leg. You can modify to one leg at a time, or go back to that previous exercise. One foot stays on the mat as one leg moves. Two more each side. And knees hug in. Fold and lift the head, neck, and chest. We're going to stay in that round back position. And we're going to stay low to the floor with the arms and the legs as they open. Arms are going to circle out to the side, up overhead as legs reach out and back. Staying in that flexion. Let's try to combine the motion. Inhale as you open. Exhale as you come back in, creating that hollowing. Last three. And hugging the knees in, dropping the shoulders back. Left foot drops to the mat with a bent knee. We cross that right ankle over that left thigh. Rotate that right leg in the hip. Twisting the leg in and out. And then left leg lifts to tabletop. We reach through, grab the back of the thigh. Find that gap between the small of the back and the floor. You can add a chest lift if you want to get a better connection and a better alignment. And we push that right leg out. You can do this flat back. Just be mindful that you maintain that little space at the waist between the floor and your back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right foot down. Left ankle crosses that right knee, and the leg twists in and twists out. Twisting that leg in the hip. Adding that lift of the right leg to tabletop, reach through, grab the back of the leg, press that left knee out, You can always do this flat on the back. Just keep the arch in your back. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Legs are nice and straight, out long across your mat, reaching towards the very end. Feel that tension build out of the hip through the legs. Arms reach long overhead as you pull the ribs in, and inhale. Arms flow forward, bringing chin to chest, and we curl and roll. Curling and rolling forward, reaching out over the legs, stretching long. Next, exhale, curl and restack. Sitting taller and longer. Let's separate our leg and foot position to mat width apart. Flexing at the ankle to draw the top of the foot back towards the shins. Arms reach forward, chin to chest. Fold and curl. Rolling down, reaching through the legs, through the feet. Take hold and stretch forward as you press the back of the legs down. One more breath. And restack. Sitting up nice and tall, nice and long. Right arm is going to open out to the right. We twist through the mid ribs and reach back. And sit tall. Reach back towards that right corner of your mat. Right arm comes around, chin to chest, forward fold, roll and reach out over the legs. Take hold. Stretching deep, forward and long. And exhale, curl and restack. Stretching the spine nice and long. Left arm opens out to the side. We twist through the mid ribs and we reach back and sit tall. Lengthen back. One more. And arms come front. Chin to chest, last forward fold, stretching out long between the legs. Take hold, stretching out. Pressing the back of the legs down against the mat as you hinge at the ankle. One more breath. And exhale, curl and restack. Crossing the legs. Sitting up nice and tall, right up out of the sit bones. Arms reach up overhead, fingers interlace. We stretch up, hinging to the right as we press the left hip down. Back to center, reaching up nice and long. We stretch to the left, anchoring the right hip against the floor. And center. One more each side. Back to center, and arms rest down by your side. All right, guys, awesome work today. Great job.